Hey, here we are coming at you live from way out west in upstate Tokyo. This is GAIJIN50 Plus Japan Talk. And we see John Carroll's here. Hi, John. How are you? You came in nice and early. Thank you for making it. I think I might have set you up to get a reminder, an auto reminder. I set up an auto reminder system. I still don't know if it works. Can I ask you, did you get a reminder like 2 hours before the live stream by email? I hope so, because like I said, I'm trying to set up a system. A lot of people said, oh, I missed the stream. And is there any way you could remind me? So I did try to set up a reminder system, but not exactly sure if it's going to be working correctly or not. We'll hang out for a while, if you don't mind, John, and wait for anybody else to join us. People, last time they came in a little bit late. And well, today is a rainy day in Tokyo, and getting a little bit colder. But it's not as cold as it has been in the past in December. It's still relatively warm. I don't know if that's the same all over the world with the much vaunted global warming that I guess we're living through. It has been warm. What causes the warmth? Well, that's the question, isn't it? So, all right, might as well get into this. We can't sit around waiting too much. Maybe, John, you may be the only one that it comes in here. Yeah, okay, good. Yes, your message. Okay. Otsu. Otsu is where? In what area is it? I'm not exactly sure about that. Hey, Kansai Boxer, good to hear from you. Thanks for always taking part in all the discussions that we're having. Nice to see you here. Oshiga Prefecture. Yeah, I've never been out there. I used to work in a Japanese company where the president loved to practice English. And he used to suddenly say to me, hey, I got to go on a business trip over here or over there. Come on, let's go together. And we would sit in the train or plane and chat in English. And he used that as his English conversation. You know, I was like his pet gaijin. Oh, look I got a spot on my shirt. Oh, I ate a pizza. I wonder if that's part of the pizza. But anyway, this guy used to take me. He took me all over the place, but I don't think I've ever been to Shiga before. Okay. So one of the thing that's on the top of my stack of stuff here is the story that I just put up a day or two ago about adding Japanese language proficiency to the permanent residency requirements in Japan. That's quite a thing, isn't it? In one way, it sounds good. You know, it's nice if you're going to live in a country, if you can speak the language, at least in a bit. But what caught my eye, not, you know, the language proficiency thing is one way or the other, but what was the other one? It said that they were going to provide training on Japanese society, how to live in Japanese society. One commenter said, yeah, well, we have to learn how to separate our garbage, because in Japan, that's so important, which gave me a laugh. But what do you think about that? If you were living in Japan and you wanted to get permanent residence, and they said, okay, you got to attend these classes on how to live in Japan and separate your garbage and be quiet on the train and things like that, would you go? I wonder. Yeah, hachi. There you go, hachi lessons. You know, you hold them this way and not that way. And well, I'd be in trouble because I'm left-handed, and you know, I was always told, you know, Japanese people never do anything with their left hand, which is untrue these days. You see plenty of left-handed Japanese these days. But there you go, hachi lessons, or like I said, how to be quiet on the train lessons, and how to be. What is the big thing that they're always saying about Japan? Japanese people are so aware of the environment around them, and they take care never to do anything that will disturb the local wa, which we all know is of questionable truth. But yeah, so they're actually, it seems like I said, these are proposals. So we don't know if they're actually going to be put into part of the law, but they've got people thinking about these things. It seems that give the foreigners a hard time crew is on a roll these days, and they're coming up with all these different plans to weed out the wheat from the chaff. And so and we know, chaff begins with a C, so we all know what some of these rules are about. But they sure seem to be getting very enthusiastic about implementing these rules. Yeah, what level of Japanese? That's the question, isn't it? So I guess there's the what do you call that? Japan Language Proficiency Test, JLPT, and they've got the different levels, and I guess one is the highest, and then it goes down from there. But that's a relatively new thing recently, and I know that the younger people who are going for their Japanese permanent residency and getting into the Japanese thing are really big on this JLPT level and studying for it. And it seems to me that it's to excel at the JLPT test, you study for the test. There are specific ways, techniques that you can use. There are books that tell you what each level of the test is like, and you study for the test. So there is some question about whether such a test actually measures your Japanese level. But I don't know that much about it. I've never taken it, and I've never had to take it. I've never been asked my level for any kind of employment that I've ever sought. So how about you guys? Have you ever done the JLPT? Let's see, what does John say? Sounds good about the language requirements. I believe that it's important to understand some basics for living in Japan. I taught an indoctrination course for new sailors coming to Japan. Sounds like you got cut off a little bit there. Yeah, I mean, it does make sense that you know some Japanese. I have seen people, I've run into people in the past that were here for years and years and never learned virtually no Japanese at all. And a lot of these were people that hung out in the gaijin ghettos of Roppongi and Azabu and things like that, where you could probably live your whole life without using Japanese at all. A lot of people in those areas speak English, and they've got like the American Club there, and the American Club is like hanging out in a country club in Japan. I mean, in America, I was there a couple of times as a guest, and it was it was okay. It was fancy and stuff like that. And I guess some expat packages when people are sent over here to fulfill some kind of role from the States, that's part of the expat package is American Club membership. And that's, if you're a member of the American Club and hang out in that society, you could pretty much go through most of your life with having very little contact with Japanese society and Japanese people. John says he hasn't taken the JLPT for a long time, but you passed level 3. That's pretty good. But I passed the level 8, 9, 10 for the kanji kente. All right, kanji kente. I guess that's that's a test that measures your kanji knowledge. I don't know much about it. 8, 9, and 10. Is that the higher the number, the higher the level, John? Is that the way it goes? Okay. With AI learning, Japanese has become much easier. Woohoo. Yes, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right in that regard. As a matter of fact, I have been working for a long time as a professional translator, Japanese to English translator, and AI is putting me out of business, basically. There was a time not that long ago where translation was a really, really good business. There was tons and tons of work. I mean, like daily orders, and you're so busy, you had to really hustle. For years and years, I never took a holiday, never took a weekend, just work, translating. And then all of a sudden, it just went, like, I don't know what to compare it with, but translation business has been hurt very much by AI. Now, that, as we all know, we're all realists, and we all know that as wonderful as AI is, it is not perfect. There are a lot of flaws, so you have to keep an eye on it, and it does mistranslate things sometimes, especially Japanese language being the Japanese language. There's a lot of clarity problems that Japanese has, and Japanese is a very high context language, unlike English. And so keeping the context straight can be a challenge. But AI does a pretty good job. And, even message writing. I use AI when I want to write messages to people in Japanese, because in the past I could write well enough to say what I wanted to say, but I always worried about the nuance. Is this polite enough? Maybe, do I have enough de gozaimasu in here, or itashimasu, sasete, and all this. So it's really hard, that honorific Japanese, so-called keigo. I really hate it, and it was my toughest part of my Japanese education. But with AI takes care of it. You tell them who you're writing to, and what you're trying to accomplish, and it does a really good job of putting it into the proper Japanese. I think it's pretty close to almost perfect English to Japanese. Yes, English to Japanese. Japanese to English, you got to keep an eye on it, because it makes mistakes, and it can get a little bit clunky sometimes if it starts getting into too much of a direct translation. Yeah. And John says level 1 is the hardest. Okay. So I could equivalate my understanding of kanji to first grade, junior high school level. I agree with your comments with AI. Okay. Thank you, John. Yeah, I use AI. Some guy, I mentioned this in the past stream. Some guy said to me, "Oh, you're using AI to write your scripts," which I don't. I don't trust AI to say, "Hey, write this," and then use what AI said as it is. I mean, anybody who does that, I think, is crazy. Did I mention this in the past, where I got 2 different AIs, and I asked one AI a question, and it gave me a questionable answer. So I asked another AI the same question, and it gave me a good answer. So I took the good answer and I put it into the first AI, and I said, "This is what another AI said," and it dumped all over it. They said, "That's hearsay. That's bogus. Whoever told you that is full of it. Don't listen to it." And then I looked in the manual, and the second AI was correct, and the first AI was wrong. So I went back to the first AI. The first AI was ChatGPT, by the way, and the second AI was Gemini. And so I said to ChatGPT, "Well, look this is from the manual. You're wrong." And it came back almost instantaneously and said, "Well, of course you're right, because in this," and then it started explaining to me why I was right with what I was reporting about why it was wrong. It was really eerie and frustrating. I once said, when I first started using ChatGPT, I used to joke with my friends. I'd say, if ChatGPT were a woman, I'd marry it. And it's almost like that kind of relationship, right? At first, when you first meet, this is so wonderful, it's so cute and stuff like that. And then you hang out together for a while, and little things start getting on your nerves. So I've got a healthier relationship with ChatGPT now. I know when not to believe it. And actually, what I'm doing now, I use one type of AI for certain kind of chores, and a different AI for other kind of chores that I know the first one is not very good at. So you have to pick your AI carefully. Okay, let's move on from our Japanese proficiency requirement for permanent residency. Unless somebody else has anything? Okay. All right. So, okay, let's keep going. And the next one, because of this stuff that the Takaichi administration is doing, there's a lot of news about foreign visitors to Japan. And it's gotten to the point where I'm having, excuse me, I got to turn off my heater. It's getting so hot in here. It's getting to the point that I am really wondering about what exactly it is that Japan is trying to accomplish. Now, as you know, Abe, when he was prime minister during his second administration, he said that he wanted to increase Japanese tourism to 30 million visitors a year by the year 20 something or another. I can't remember what it was originally, but then COVID hit and Japanese tourism crashed. I think during COVID, the annual number of visitors to Japan was like 250,000 or something like that. So Japan started panicking. They said, well, we got to get these tourist numbers up, especially after COVID was resolved or disappeared or flew off the radar. But then, so then the next administration that Takaichi had replaced, they went great guns on building Japan's tourism industry. And they were talking about doing these many visitors by this year and those many. And they really, really, really promoted Japanese tourism. And they were saying, well, this is a good thing because we can make lots of money and it's good for the country and all this kind of stuff. And then now with the Takaichi administration taking a almost 180-degree turn, they seem like it's almost open season on foreign visitors, especially of a certain type. And now they're saying, okay, we got to get these people under control. And, Takaichi said something about Taiwan and Japan having to defend Taiwan. And then the Chinese, got all bent out of shape. And they said, well, we'll bully the Japanese for a while and see how that works. And they said to their people, don't go to Japan. Your safety is in question and all this. And a lot of Chinese started canceling their trips to Japan, and visitors from China, boom, crashed. So sounds like some news reports are saying, well, this is really taihen, because if Chinese people quit coming to Japan, the tourism will crash and then again, there are also articles. I've got one in my hand here. Japan sees record foreign visitors in 2025, but concerns over China relations loom. So Japan is set to top 40 million visitors for the first time in 2025. Now, of course, the Chinese thing happened at the end of the year, so I don't know if that's going to even put a dent in this year's visitors, but they're looking for 40 million people in 2025. And from January to November, 39.06 arrivals were already logged. And, they're saying, well, it's because of the yen, the record low yen. But if you're keeping track, you know that Japan recently raised its interest rates, and which means that the Japanese yen will increase in value, and it'll make the exchange rate less attractive to travelers. That's another one that's funny. I didn't actually bring any news, but I was, I don't know that much about exchange rates and bonds and things like that. But, they say, this is the highest the Japanese interest rate has been in 30 years, and it's still at 0.75%. So you can imagine how low it's been for all of these years. I mean, it was close to zero. It might have even been negative, but it's up at 0.75%. And this is a big deal. But because it was raised to 0.75%, Japanese stocks jumped and the value of the yen jumped, which should put even a bigger crimp into foreign visitors, maybe. Who knows? If anybody knows, please pipe up. Okay, please let us know. I'm trying to keep an eye on these comments without screwing it up too much like I did last time too. There were a bunch of comments that I didn't see because I didn't scroll down. Still in a learning curve here, folks. Stick with us. Okay, so talking about these visitor numbers. So from January to November, China visitors were the highest, which were at 8.76 million visitors. Second was South Korea, 8.48 million visitors, which is not that different. And then you have Taiwan with 6.17 million visitors. So these neighboring Asian countries were the top three sources of arrivals. In the Western countries, the U.S. contributed significantly to the overall increase with 3.03 million visitors. And then there are some European countries that aren't that high. Germany, 400,000, Italy, 280,000, Spain, 230,000. But all of these are higher than they had been in the past. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen. Chinese visitors evidently are way down, but is that going to affect the overall numbers for this year? Who knows? I don't. If anybody's a finance wizard out there and would like to give us some information, it would be appreciated. So then I got another story again about tourism, and it says there's been a sharp decline in the number of Chinese tourists, but overall the number of visitors to Japan exceeds the previous record. That's pretty much the same as what I just said. Okay, so all of this, foreigners are causing trouble in Japan, and you all see the comments. We get some comments sometimes from Japanese people saying, foreigners are screwing up our country and stuff like that, as if there were no foreigners in Japan, it wouldn't ever be screwed up. But anyway, I ran across another story as not to do with Japanese tourists, but it's about Japanese people going abroad. And it seems that 16 Japanese nationals were detained in Cambodia because they were suspected of being involved in fraud cases. So the 16 Japanese nationals were detained by local authorities in Cambodia, and they said that these people were engaged in fraudulent activities aimed at Japanese people. Isn't that interesting? So they're trying to sort this out. They say that these Japanese people went to Cambodia because Cambodia is a hotbed of fraud cases and online cheating. And I couldn't help but laugh because I started wondering, I wonder if the Cambodians are sitting around putting together committees, government committees, trying to figure out what to do with all these Japanese gaijins who are coming over and screwing up their country. So I wish they would, but that would be funny. All right. There was another thing. I mentioned this, and there was a little bit. Okay, let's see. That's why I've sworn off Kyoto and Nara. Ooh. So Kyoto and Nara, yeah. And in fact, I saw another story. I didn't prepare it today because it was just a little short blurb. They were saying that as the number of foreign tourists to Kyoto, Nara, and the popular tourist spots climbs, there is an almost corresponding decline in the number of Japanese visitors. Japanese visitors are putting off traveling domestically because of there are too many foreign visitors screwing it all up. But yeah, it seems like they're getting pretty fed up with what's going on among some foreign visitors. Speaking about foreign visitors, did you see that story? That's another one I didn't print out because it was so stupid. I was wondering, is this The Onion or the Babylon Bee or something like that? They were saying that there were 2 Chinese women, older women, or 3 Chinese older women who were down somewhere in Kansai, and the train gate went down with, bling, 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 bling. And they thought that the area inside the gate, which apparently had some yellow marking, they thought that the yellow marking meant that it was a safe area. So they went inside the gate and were standing in this yellow area, and evidently got hit by the train and were killed. And now their family is suing the train company, saying you didn't have it marked correctly. So, but that's more foreigner adventures in Japan. So we have a hello here. Oh, hello. Aki. Is that how do you pronounce your name there? We have a Japanese guest. Hi, how you doing? And he's made a couple of comments before in the past, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoy yourself. If you want to participate in English, please go ahead. If you want to drop a line in Japanese, you can do that too, and we'll handle it the best that we can. So anyway, here's one. I put this in the list of topics, and it already has generated a little bit of discussion. And they're talking about, and this is something that I experienced too. When I first came here, there are always a lot of different things that you experience. And this guy, so when I first came here, went to a public restroom, men's room. And as you know, as all you men know, you go in there and you're standing up to the urinal doing your stuff. And, you're sort of like looking off into the air, considering some of the finer points of life as you go about your business. And you hear a noise, the door opens, and you look over there, and there's some lady comes in with her cleaning supplies and starts cleaning around you as you're sitting there doing your business. Now, of course, I'm used to that now because it happens all the time. But the first time it happened, I was pretty surprised. I was pretty shocked. And how about you guys? Did you have the same sense of shock? Back in my days in the United States, I mean, women just didn't show up suddenly in the men's toilet in the United States, and I was surprised when they did over here. And it seems that recently on a TV show, somehow there was some kind of discussion going on, or maybe it was online, but some famous Japanese guy says, yeah, I don't like that when I'm in the men's room doing my business and all of a sudden a woman shows up. I feel embarrassed. And so what they did is they went around and started asking general people questions. How do you feel about it? Because, I thought it was just run-of-the-mill stuff in Japan over the years, because you see it all the time. And at first you have to ask the question, why? Why is it that they have women cleaning the men's room? And evidently they need janitors or cleaning personnel to clean the toilets. And men generally shy away from applying for that kind of work. And so the majority, 70% of the janitorial staff in Japan is women. And because a few men apply for such positions. And so, like I said, one guy, it was a tweet I see here. He tweeted and he says, I'm a Japanese guy. He says, I may be strange, but I feel uncomfortable. And then it became a topic of discussion. And so some survey was performed by an organization called Clean System and the Japan Restroom Association. And they asked 756 men and women, and they found out that roughly 3 out of 4 men expressed some degree of discomfort about having a female janitor cleaning up in the men's room. And 14% opposed the idea of women coming in to clean. 31% moderately kind of opposed. 28% not so strongly opposed, and 27% not opposed at all. So, yeah, then as somebody pointed out in this article, if you feel bad, just think about the female janitor, she's doing that as a job. She needs money. She needs to eat. She needs to pay the rent. She needs to do what she has to do. And so in order to make a living, she is forced into going into this room of a bunch of men standing at the urinals, and she has to clean and avert her gaze and do whatever she has to do. So you got to feel sorry for the women too. They don't say that they asked any of the women about how they felt about it, but they did ask women who use the restroom, how would you feel if a guy was cleaning up while you were in the washroom? And this is interesting because 43.7% totally oppose the idea, 39.3% moderately opposed, 11.6% said, well, I'm not, I don't care about it that much, and 5.4% didn't care at all. So this was interesting to me because, like I said, I experienced initial shock when I got here. Like I said, though, you get used to it after a while because it happens so often. Okay. I avoid going to Kyoto and Nara. Is it Akio? Could be. Can you, what do you say there? Oh, Aki, yeah. Okay, Akio. Okay, I can see that. And Kansai Boxing, but Japanese names are so hard to read. It happened my first night in a very nice hotel in Sapporo. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I don't know if you guys had this, and I don't know if I should say this. When I first got here, I was down in Fukuoka, and I might talk about this in a future video. And back then, there were not that many gaijins running around. The Shinkansen only went down to Osaka. It was during the days of the first Osaka World Fair, the one before the one that was held recently. And back in those days, sometimes you'd be standing at the urinal doing your business, and a guy, usually an older guy, would come to the urinal next to you, and you'd be sitting there, like I said, just how you stare at the porcelain in front of you, and you'd be going about your business, and all of a sudden the guy next to you would go like that to check out, to see if everything they say about gaijin men is true. That was pretty funny. That happened a number of times. I mean, it wasn't an isolated incident. It happened a number of times. It was one of the more comical things that went on way back when. Anybody else had that happen? Okay, I'm sure if you did have it happen, you would remember it. Okay, so since we're talking about toilets, there's a question. I put it up as a video, and the video I asked it in didn't get that much traction, but it's why Americans call the toilet a bathroom. I never could figure that out. So I have had that experience too, John Carroll says. It was uncomfortable at first, but I have come to accept it. I'm glad that Japan has such clean culture. Did Japan always have this cleanliness when you first came? In a word, no. 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 I will talk about that in detail in a moment. It's one of the topics that I have here. I'm really running off it. I'm in a pretty good shape here as far as the motor mouth is concerned. But let me talk about something else first, John. We'll come back to this. I mentioned this a couple of days ago, and it has to do with bathrooms. And I know Americans call bathrooms and toilets the same thing, which bugs the heck out of me. But anyway, this human washing machine. I mentioned it before. They put a demonstration unit in at Expo, and I guess what you do is you sit down in this thing, and the cover closes, and it seals, and you're sprayed with water and the soapy water. I don't know if it rubs you down or anything like that. And while you're sitting there, you're shown pleasant images and you're sitting down and just laying back like this, and it, and you can hear pleasant music, and it's supposed to be quite a pleasant experience. And I think I might have mentioned is, the device is humongous, never fit in a Japanese home the way they are designed now. But it seems that they were able to get a contract to install a few of these units in a hotel. So you can go to this hotel and experience the automatic human body washing machine. It's Where is that now? It's located at a hotel. Where's the hotel name? Okay, it's the company is in Osaka, and so is the hotel where they installed it. The Dotonbori Crystal Hotel 3. Dotonbori Crystal Hotel 3 in Osaka's Namba neighborhood. Okay, Kansai Boxer, you know that? Do you know that area? Dotonbori Crystal Hotel 3 sounds a little bit, like a love hotel. I don't know, but they've installed this thing, this human washing machine. And however, it's not like in a room or something like that. You don't like rent a room and there's this big thing in the room. What they did is they installed the pod, which inside the hotel's day spa facility. So it's a private room, and it's got also a sauna and a lounge space. And the private room where this thing is located, you can rent the private room in 90-minute increments, in 90-minute blocks. And one washing by this machine takes about 20 minutes. So they say probably the best thing to do is get a group of 4 people, and one person's in the pod getting all washed up while the other people are using the sauna and sitting around the lounge and drinking beer or whatever. So it's like I said, it's good for a group. And they say that there are 6 sessions available per day, 6 90-minute sessions. And one session costs 18,000 yen. That's 118 bucks right now, changeable right now with the yen and the dollar jumping around. You can book a room, or book a time between 10:30 a.m. and 8:30 p.m. Reservations can be made online. Maybe I'll put a link down in the show notes if I remember. But yeah, you can go in there and experience an automated body wash if that is your thing. As I said, I don't know how hygienic something like this would be. Public bathing facilities sometimes can get funky smelling and stuff like that. So I don't know what they have done to take care of that. The next story I have up here online. Okay, the next story I have online is income tax hike. This is just a real short one, so I won't talk about it that much. They're talking about hiking income taxes in January 2027 as part of efforts to secure funding for increased defense spending. Okay, they're talking about a 1 percentage point income tax surcharge on income, so to pay for self-defense. They also raised corporate and tobacco taxes in 2025. Taxes, I don't know the way it is in the United States right now. They used to say a tax rate over 20% is inviting revolt from your populace, but it seems like people are willing to put up with a lot more than 20%. I think that in Japan these days, even young people, they take about half of their salary in taxes and fees and all this kind of stuff. So I don't know. These politicians, they never think about cutting costs. They only think about raising taxes. Okay, here's a big one. I might end up doing a full video on this, but I'll just mention it here. And that is, everybody here, I'm sure, knows that Japanese legal system is often referred to as being hostage justice. And that is, once the police have a hold of you, they keep a hold of you, and they keep hammering at you until you finally give up or plead guilty to a lesser charge or something like that. And there are a lot of people who criticize this, what they call the hostage justice system. But it seems like times are changing a little bit, because there is talk of setting up a quasi-legal assistance program. So quasi-legal assistance. So this is really, really something. I mean, as an American, of course, Japan is different from America, and Japan's legal system is Japan's legal system. But as an American hearing this, it's pretty interesting. So, for example, if you're ever arrested in Japan and you're taken into the police station for questioning, or if you don't know, I'll tell you, you cannot have a lawyer present during police questioning. They won't let you. You're on your own to face the police. And so Japanese police can grill suspects without any kind of legal representation present. And that's why they call it hostage justice. And even Japanese legal experts are starting to say, well, maybe this isn't so good, because it is open to abuse. The police can overstep their bounds if they're in private closed-door sessions with just them and the accused. So they have started in some places, they're not everywhere. They're starting to introduce here and there something that they call the quasi-attendance initiative. Now, under the quasi-attendance initiative, a lawyer of the person being questioned is allowed to be in the same building where the interrogation is taking place. Not necessarily in the same room, but in the same building. And during the police interrogations, suspects can leave the interrogation room every 15 to 30 minutes or so to consult with the lawyer who's in the same building. Now, this is not, like I said, not blanket, and it's not applied everywhere. But they say primarily it's applied in situations where subjects are voluntarily being questioned and anyway are free to leave at any time. Right? They're just being questioned without being accused. In almost all cases, suspects who are in detention cannot avail themselves to legal help. And the Japan Federation of Bar Associations, a lawyers group, has called for suspects to have access to lawyers during interrogations. So they're on the accused side. And they said this quasi-representation scheme is the second best that they could hope for, because under the current reality, shikata ga nai. So they said they gave one example. Some guy was arrested in Nagoya on suspicion of voyeuristic photography on a train and later released. And he was called in for questioning 4 times, and he was allowed quasi-attendance at that time where he could go out. And his lawyer told him, admit to most of the charges, but explain your actions. Why? And this is a real Japanese thing too. I mean, we've heard about this before. So the man admitted to most of the charges, but he said, I was forced to do this perverted stuff because of job-related stress. If you've been here long enough, you know this is used in a lot of defenses. And the guy, the accused, not the accused, but the guy being questioned, offered a doctor's diagnosis to back up his claim. So this guy kept consulting with the lawyer and was able to talk to the police, and he had some of his statements canceled and stuff. And in the end, charges were dropped. So the quasi-legal help seemed to have helped him. The guy said, I would be extremely anxious to undergo questioning alone. And he said he felt reassured to have a lawyer on hand during the interrogations. Like I said, I may do a full video on this because that's some pretty interesting stuff. Not that anybody here would ever get arrested. Okay, we're going to go back to John's question here. Okay, about the cleanliness. Sounds like the body washing machine could be really useful for care for the elderly. There you go. And taxes are awful. Yes, that's a two-banger comment, and you're correct in both regards. Yeah, the care for the elderly might be good. I read somewhere that these care people, these young people who care for the elderly, have a real hard time when it comes to bathing and cleanliness and picking people up and moving them here and moving them there. So something like that. It may be a very, very good application. They keep saying, well, we want to sell these things for home use, but I have my doubts about that. I used to have my doubts about our next topic. High-tech toilets. Okay, this is, Gaijins love this topic, and it is a good topic. And I have my own stories about high-tech toilets and about toilets in general. John asked me about the way it was way back when. And as I said, let me clarify, I was down in Fukuoka. So it's very different from what it was like in Tokyo. So when I got here in the late 60s, Japan, Fukuoka, the outlying areas of Japan, the majority of toilets may not, I don't want to say give the wrong information, but I kept seeing reports that there would be reports in the news about the increase in the percentage of flush toilets in Japan. So back in Fukuoka long ago, there were plenty of toilets which were what we used to call bomb site benjos. And you can imagine what that means, right? Bombs. Can you imagine? Bomb site, Geronimo and all that kind of stuff. So it was just like, like Boy Scout camp or out in the forest preserves or something like that. It was basically a hole in the ground, and you had a porcelain thing around the hole that looks like the old Japanese squat style toilets, but there was no flush. There was just a hole that went down into a septic tank of some sort. And that was a toilet. And there were the vast majority of toilets back then were that kind of toilet. And the modern, I remember going to somebody's house one time, and they had this modern toilet, which was a squat style toilet that you could flush. And this was a big deal, modern. What hath God wrought, And the toilet talk back then was pretty funny. And again, this is Kyushu, where they've got pride, all kinds of pride in all kinds of things. And I used to say to people, wow, this is such a pain. You have to sit there and squat and watch your wallet that it doesn't fall down and crap like that. And why don't you get sit down toilets? It's not. And people would say, number one, the Japanese squat style toilet is cleaner, more hygienic than a sit down American style toilet. They said, absolutely, because when you sat down, you touched the seat and there's some maybe somebody touched it before you, so it makes the Japanese style cleaner because you're not into contact. Now, anybody who went to a station toilet or something like that back then, when it was the Japanese squat style toilet, I'm sure will agree with me that anybody who said that that kind of toilet was cleaner and more hygienic than a sit down toilet, I don't know. I mean, that's more national pride than anything else. So there was no washlet, absolutely no. At that time, there were some American or Western style sit down flush toilets downtown, in downtown Fukuoka, but many places in downtown Fukuoka had flush Japanese squat toilets. So I was there for not that long before I knew where every sit-down Western-style toilet in the city of Fukuoka was located, and I timed my biological needs so the timing would be just right, where I would be in the vicinity of one of those at a hotel or at a new department store or something like that, where I could go in and do what I had to do without going into all kinds of contortions like a circus performer just to use the toilet. Depends on how much drinking someone had been doing. Yeah, that's true. I don't know if you mean drinking makes it easier or drinking makes it harder, but yeah, there were some pretty. I remember there were places in drinking established outside of there was like this place. It was this building that had a bunch of drinking establishments, and the toilet was a shared toilet outside. And I remember that one. That one was about as gross as you would. I mean, you would go there and it looked like there was something alive down there moving around, going, you'd expect at any moment to come out and grab you. It was pretty gross. So Kansai Boxer says, my first apartment in Osaka was a post-World War II hutch built for 5 families. We had a squat toilet at the back of the house. At least it flushed. That's a big difference. That's all the difference in the world. And John says, I believe that the squat style is possibly good for the body, but as an American, it's extremely difficult to balance, and then bombs away. Yeah, I agree on all accounts. Maybe it is good for the body. I mean, you got that stretching, even tatami life, I always thought might have been good for the body. But then again, you see people bent over from sitting on tatami all the time. So it's hard to say, I wonder if there's ever been a study about something like that. And those of you who have been here long enough, who know when it was in the day of the septic tanks, the way the trucks used to come, the vacuum trucks would come around regularly, and the poor guys whose job it was to stick the hose down into the tank and extract all of the stuff that you have been depositing for the week. And I'm sure everybody's been through this. The first time I saw one of those, actually, the first time I heard one of those, they used to play this jingly music. I guess they're trying to make their terrible truck sound upbeat and friendly. And the first time I heard it, I thought, oh, it's the Mr. Softy ice cream truck. And later did I find out they weren't there for deliveries. They were there for the pickups. Okay. Yeah, there's a learning curve. There you go. Definitely a learning curve. One that I never mastered on my own. Okay, but anyway, that's the way it was as far as that. And the back then, like I said, when it was the bomb site benjos, the hygiene situation was pretty gross and rank. And that's not to reflect on the Japanese people. That's to reflect on the reality of the situation, the way it was at that time. Japan's come a long way since then, and yeah, and you came to appreciate, there were a lot of good things about the old way, and then they got into their washlets, their high-tech toilets, and stupid me, for a long time I refused to use a washlet. My wife used to get on me. Use a washlet, you'll love it. And I say, nah, just the thought of something moving around down there, And so one day, thanks to my wife's incessant nagging, I gave it a try. And like they say, once you tried it, you'll never go back. And I found out it was wonderful. I mean, it did what it's supposed to do, and it's a lot cleaner and more thorough. And I got used to it. I'm using it all the time. And then, I had my first toilet shock with all the squat benjos here, and the bomb site benjos. Then I got used to the washlet, and then I go back to the States just before COVID, and we stayed in a motel, hotel kind of thing. It was pretty nice. And then I went into the toilet to use it for the first time, and I thought to myself, "Where's the washlet?" And there was just this pot, and I was thinking, "Oh my God, what am I going to do? I've got to be here like 10 days. I don't think I'm going to use the toilet for 10 days." And of course, that didn't work. But I had a really hard time going back to the American toilet way. Okay. My sister's version in Texas was like a cold fire hose. It was a reverse culture shock. There you go, a reverse. You know what they have now too? I found out later when I was talking about my experience going back to the United States. They have portable washlets now. You buy this thing, and I don't know. I've never used it. I've never seen it, so I'm just speculating. But it's like a device that's powered somehow, and you fill it full of water, and you just and you can take it along with you when you go to a place like the United States. However, that may be changing, because according to Toto, who is the manufacturer of washlets, their fastest growing market for washlet high-tech toilets is the United States of America. And they said maybe it's because of all these tourists coming to Japan and using a washlet for the first time and figuring out, hey, this is pretty good. I'd like to have one of these back home, or what. But it seems that they're becoming very, very popular in the United States, and people are willing to put up with the cost. And here's some interesting stats. It took 18 years for Toto to hit 10 million units sold, and only 5 years for the next 10 million units. 7 years for the next 10 million units. 5 years for the next 10 million, 4 years, 3 years, 3.5 years, 3.5 years, and 3 years for 10 million increases. So they've sold at 70 million washlets since the beginning. And like they said, in America, it's really taking off, and it's the fastest growing market over the past 5 years. How about you guys? You like the washlet? And I don't mean a Texas cold fire hose. I mean, I love it. I swear by them. Okay, I got a couple of more, but yeah, I don't know if they're. I saved the. Oh yeah, I got one more. Talking about hara hachibu. Everybody knows what hara hachibu is? The eat until you're 80% full. I mean, we've all heard that. Anybody who's been in Japan very long knows about this. And I always wonder about that. How do you know when you're 80% full? I mean, do you have a gauge or something like that? I could never figure that out. How do you know when you're 80% full? And this came up. The reason I grabbed this is because I read another article recently, and I'm thinking about doing a full-blown video on it about this lady comes out and she says, well, everybody knows that Japanese people are so thin. And it always rubs me the wrong way when I hear that, because I think Japanese people are not really thin. They're less obese than Americans, but they're not really thin like they used to be. I mean, when I first got here, you never, ever saw an overweight Japanese person. They were all Japanese people looked really good, but they were also very tiny. I'm not that tall of a guy, but when I first got here, I felt like I was a giant. I felt like I was, Shaquille O'Neal or something like that. And I used to think, wow, these Japanese people, they're fit, they all look like they're in good shape and svelte, some svelte people. But then I figured out as the years went by, no, the people when I first got here were still suffering from post-World War II malnutrition, and that was their problem. And now that good quality food, now I don't say good quality, but abundant food and meat, the meat wasn't a big thing when I first got here. And people are eating a variety of different foods, as everybody knows. There's some big dudes and dudettes running around this country these days. And it's quite surprising compared to what it used to be long, long ago. Anybody else experience that? What do you think? Are Japanese people thin? Here we go. Okay. No middle-aged man in Japan can fit in M-size shirt. That's a fact. Yes, absolutely right. P-Bob 77880. And John Kelly, I've lost a lot of weight, but just walking, but I've always hated being told that I was fat from Japanese. Well, yeah, that's, Japanese people like to tell people, anybody, that when they're gaining weight, I mean, talk about body shaming and things like that. I mean, that's a way of life here. P-Bob, you're correct. You are correct. I do some country stuff here, and I have country shirts. And when I buy a country shirt from the United States, I always order M, American size M. And if I buy a shirt in Japan, I always have to get an LL. So, but that's not to say that an M is M, an American M is not a Japanese M, and a Japanese LL is not, I mean, the M and L meaning is all relative. Yeah, the people in the US are big people. But I really wonder about, okay, I'll say it straight. I'm trying to be cool. And, if you look around these days, you see a lot of women wearing clothing that looks like it's cut in a way to hide their body shape, especially around the middle area. And as we all know, there are a lot of men in their 30s or 40s. Japanese men are getting a bigger gut, especially in the city. Compared to America, there are no way they don't look fat or overweight at all. But it seems like the weight is becoming more and more of an issue in this country. And I wonder sometimes if it's ever going to get as bad as it is in the United States. I hope not. It doesn't look like it now, but I never think these days that Japanese people are thin. In a way, they're better shaped than they were in the past when they were kind of gaunt. But that's all a matter of opinion too. Okay. Oh, Japan Ham. Sorry. Oh, Japan Ham. Did you sign up for email alerts? I set up an email alert system. If anybody else is interested, I'll put the link again in the show notes of this stream. And if you go to the link and you input your email address, I automatically send out an alert, I think about 2 hours before the stream starts, saying, don't forget there's a stream coming up. And, once you register your email address, you can, delete it anytime you want, and you will never be sent any kind of advertising email or unwanted email. That email alert system is 100% totally for live stream alerts. I'll never use it for anything else. So if you want to be reminded, please sign up. Like I said in the past, I plan on polishing things up. Right now, I'm just going straight into YouTube Studio. I have other things that I have to learn how to do, with the camera and with the software and things like that. But I'm afraid to try new software things cold because of Murphy's Law. And, you'd hate to hit the go live button and nothing happens and stuff like that. So I have to test it out. And this will be all coming in next year. Okay, Japan Ham. We'll figure. Is 2 hours too quick? I thought, 8:00 live stream. I had it set to send out at 6:00. If you want, I could set it out at 7:00. It's up to you. If you want to say your opinion, please do, or and I'll be happy to change it to suit anybody's desire. But my university, which has really screwed me up, I might have told you this. Excuse me if I'm babbling on, but I started this channel during the summer break of my university work. And then when I got into the university semester, it ate up a lot of time, and I've been hustling, trying to keep generating content. But the semester ends in January of next year. And after that, I'm going to cut my schedule back down to where it was, and I'll be putting out a lot more content. As a matter of fact, we go on year-end break from Tuesday. So from Tuesday, I may start putting out a whole bunch of content. I've got all kinds of stuff I want to write about. If I had the time, I could put out a video every day on Japanese news. There's all kinds of stuff going on, which is very refreshing, because in the past, Japanese news was very, very boring. Very, very boring. Okay. All right. Anybody got anything else? We've got 5 people hanging out. We've been here for about an hour and 10 minutes. Okay. Metabolism is about muscle mass. When you lose it, you start adding weight. Yep. I should imagine that's true. Interesting. True. Okay. P-Bob is P-Bob. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Thank you. I really appreciate that's a very nice comment. Japan Ham, I have several live chats for ham radio that I watch, and I was thinking that this was always okay. Sorry about that. John Carroll, sounds nice, but please enjoy your win. Yeah, well, as I mentioned before, because of my translation life that I lived for a long, long time, I got into the habit of not traveling during the holiday seasons. I don't travel during New Year's. I don't travel during Golden Week and stuff like that, because it's just, I don't like to deal with the people. But yeah, right now this is the most enjoyable thing that I'm doing. Besides this, I'm also playing music and stuff like that, and I've got a couple of gigs that I gotta get out of the way, which is also eating up my time. But yeah, I enjoy making this content. I don't know if you know this, but I used to have a pretty popular podcast way back when, and a pretty popular blog way back when about Japan. And putting out this kind of content is very enjoyable for me. So learn to live with it, everybody. Anyway, thanks for coming by. I really appreciate it. Thanks for all of your support. I know all of your names from the comments and stuff like that. I really appreciate it. Japan Ham says 9 days off at New Year's. I also hang around locally taking pics and operating ham radio at parks. Not meaning the pride, Japan Ham. What area of Japan are you in? Are you around Tokyo? Okay, Kansai Boxer, thank you. You too, everybody. Yeah, I think I'll do one more before the new year, about 27th. I'm going to check out more. Thank you, P Bob. I appreciate it. I hope you like it. And if you've got anything to say, please go ahead and say it. Smash that like button. No, I'm not going to be that kind of a YouTuber. But yeah, Kawanishi Hyogo. Oh, I don't even know where that is. Kawanishi Hyogo. Okay. See, I don't. I've been a lot of places all around Japan, but I don't. There are a lot of places that I haven't been yet. Maybe if this channel, if I feel motivated, maybe I'll start taking trips around to different places. Maybe I'll come by, see you guys, bring my camera, and we can have a talk online. Anyway, Kansai Boxer, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. I appreciate your support and everybody else's support. And we'll do our best to keep it up. And I've got a couple of things that I mentioned today. I might do a toilet special here or something like that. John Carroll, thank you. Arigatou gozaimasu. Thank you. Until next time, always welcome to Shiga. Maybe I'll take you up on that. Tomorrow, some guy shows up at John Carroll's house. Bing bong. Hi, John. In the mountains. Ooh, okay. I used to be out in the mountains in Tochigi, which is a real nice place. I really loved it there. Okay, everybody. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you next time. Have a nice weekend. And I'll have something coming up, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday. Another story about what's going on in Japan for you. Thanks a lot, everybody. I'll see you. Bye. Bye.